I am tired of posters. Everywhere I go, every doctor's office, professor's desk, waiting room, classroom, every place that I go, they follow me. Shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Don't be afraid to be different. Do what makes you happy. What they don't tell you is that if you miss the moon, you'll die within seconds in the vacuum of space. If everyone just focused on being different, then we'd all just be hipsters. And do what makes you happy. Look, these phrases are simple and catchy, and yet repeated endlessly until I can no longer quite remember what they once meant. I'm sick of these posters, shoved down our throats at every occasion, every convocation and celebration, a culmination of an entire generation's worth of brainwashing. These grains of truth turned into meaningless adages, hiding behind framed stock images. Is this what I've come to? I've spent so much of my life trying to be happy, told to do what I love and to love every moment. And yet I find myself on this treadmill of goals and wishes that just goes on and on and on and on, wondering why I'm not able to reach that trophy that I so desperately crave. Not realizing that it's literally 2 steps in front of me, in front of this machine that I can't seem to turn off. We are taught that happiness comes from defining who you are, from following your passions, as if happiness is just some hedonistic reward for being unique and different, completely ignoring the meaning, the purpose, the importance that comes behind sacrifice, giving, pain. For it's only when we've lost ourselves that we stand to gain everything. We've become so obsessed with passion that we've forgotten about compassion. So self-centered that we've lost our ability to just center ourselves. I'm done with these posters. I'm over being told to keep running. I'm ready to turn off this treadmill. I'm here. Hello, everyone. My name is Suraj, and I am a writer, a student here at Georgia Tech, and perhaps most meaningful to me, an instructor for a form of meditation called heartfulness. What you just heard was a spoken word poem that I wrote a year ago called Posters. For so long, I've felt immersed in a culture that is obsessed with happiness. As a campus and a generation, we are constantly being told to do what makes us happy and to follow our passions. And yet, despite being in an era that's arguably more connected, more comfortable, and more affluent than ever before, so many of us, including myself, have found ourselves feeling empty and unfulfilled. Over 300 million people in the world suffer from depression, which is the leading cause of disability worldwide. Why is that? Why, despite this constant narrative to be happy, am I not? That's the question that I asked myself. What is it that I haven't figured out? First, I had replaced happiness with pleasure. If I look back at the moments in my life where I consider myself to be happy, they really fall into 2 categories. There are the exhilarating moments, like where I got my first PlayStation 2, or went to the Music Midtown for a music festival over the weekend with my friends, or I won my first high school debate competition. These moments were these exhilarating highs, and then almost inevitably followed by an equally extreme low. The second kind of moment are more subtle, like the time where I first held my baby cousin, and I was terrified of letting him go, but he held on to me. Or the smile that I would get at the front desk every time I walked past the front doors of my internship. These moments felt like they were giving me a sense of joy that could last forever. Neurologically speaking, the exhilarating moments can be explained by dopamine, a pleasure hormone that gets triggered every time that we achieve a goal or talk about our accomplishments. They are almost like a sugar rush, where you get that high and then inevitably have that crash. The more subtle moments can be explained by oxytocin or serotonin, which are triggered every time that we engage in an unselfish act like charity or a behavior of trust and bonding. They may not give us that exhilarating high, but they lift our moods, and they tend to last much longer. For me, I had almost wholly replaced happiness with those exhilarating moments. I remember my first year in college, I dreaded having to come back to my dorm room because I would be having so much fun on campus, exploring events around town and having fun with my friends. But I knew that inevitable crash was awaiting me the moment I would go back into my dorm. Second, I made happiness about myself. I still remember when I was small, and whenever I would have a nightmare or growing pains, my mom would hear me cry in the middle of the night and then just rush over to make sure that everything was okay. In those moments at 2 a.m. in the morning, my mom was definitely not happy. Having to sit with me, press my feet, give me water, and just lay down next to me until I could go to sleep. I'm sure no parent enjoys having to be sleep deprived because their child is waking up again and again in the night. But in that moment, no matter how cranky or unhappy that my mom was, she came. And it was out of love. For years, I've had these days where I would have existential crisis or after existential crisis, thinking about who am I and am I really happy? And last year, when I found myself in a similar situation, sinking deeper and deeper into a hole of self-doubt, the most unexpected thing helped pull me out of it. It was gardening. I started with a few seeds and some pots of soil out in my balcony. And it was amazing because for the first time in my life, when I woke up in the morning, my first thought wasn't, oh my gosh, I want to go back to sleep, or how dreadful is my day going to be today? My first thought was, how are my plants doing? How can I water them? Have they grown yet? That simple act of tending to this garden was helping to pull me out of this self-obsession and really add perspective to my life and my own struggles. In a way, happiness became no longer about just myself. And this move from ourselves to others is further confirmed by a study at Harvard conducted by Dr. Michael Norton. Two groups, one told to spend $20 on themselves and another told to spend $20 on themselves. Inevitably, the group that spent $20 on other people reported consistently higher levels of happiness. And this concept of pro-social giving has been further confirmed by other studies to have longer-lasting positive health benefits beyond just feelings of connection or that incremental mood boost. But then the question arises, why do so many of us spend a majority of our resources on ourselves and not others? Finally, I was caught on this treadmill. In the past 4 years that I've been meditating, and the last 2 years that I've been an instructor, a question that I often get asked, and I've even asked myself, is if I feel content, how will I accomplish anything? What will happen to all my ambition? As if feeling fulfilled and still aspiring to improve are completely different and incompatible. As a result, I found myself falling into this trap of if only I. If only my friend would apologize. If only my parents would let me go to that party. If only I can get into the right college, then get the right grade on this test, then get the right internship, the right job, the right location. And before you know it, you get lost in the cycle. And implicit in that statement is always, if only I get X, then I'll be happy. Then everything will be okay. In the words of the happiest man in the world, a 71-year-old Buddhist monk named Matthew Ricard, happiness is not the endless pursuit of a succession of experiences. That's more a recipe for exhaustion than happiness. Happiness is a way of being. For me, this is the role of meditation. I've spent so much of my life being conditioned by external factors, telling me that in order to be happy and finally get there, I just have to keep working and working and working outside of myself. Not realizing the importance of just pausing, letting myself unravel, and expanding my understanding of the situation beyond the chaos of that moment. When we want to get to know someone, and the conversation is going really well, what do? We put away our phones and our distractions. We give that person our full attention, and we just listen. Meditation is an opportunity to do the same with yourself, where you put away your distractions, you take a pause, relax, give yourself your full attention, and you just listen to what your heart has to say. The more that I've done this, the more that I find myself letting that state of calm and of balance become a way of being. And this just isn't my experience. Studies from UCLA, Harvard, Yale, and universities across the world are finding how a daily meditation practice doesn't just help lift your mood or reduce your stress, but also physically changes your minds in ways that make these changes more positive and longer lasting. The most important thing is that you don't have to wait until you have a weekend to go to the mountains. Meditation is something that you can do anywhere at any time. I did it before the 2 tests that I had today. I did it before this event. I've done it in the middle of an airport because I know that no matter where I am and no matter how chaotic or how peaceful my life is going, it's there for me. Today, with online courses, mobile apps, and volunteer instructors across the world, meditation is more accessible than ever. All you have to do is give it a try. So going back to that question that I asked myself, why, despite this constant narrative of being happy, am I not? For me, I realized it was because, one, I was making happiness all about pleasure. I had made happiness all about myself. And I was caught on this treadmill. My personal discovery was that getting off the treadmill means shifting away from seeing happiness as those exhilarating moments. Shifting the focus away from just yourself to including others, whether it's people in your community or a few plants in your balcony. And ultimately using meditation as a tool to help achieve that state of balance and letting it become that way of being. Ultimately, my hope is that we can screw being told to find happiness, to pursue that endless succession of experiences, that each one of us can say, we're done running on our treadmills, and that we're ready to just be here. Thank you.